What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special video on the channel, and to be honest, maybe arguably one of the most important videos on the channel. It's been a big week. This is something that will not be relevant just for this week. It'll be relevant for the future as well. But essentially, something very significant is happening with the football club if you haven't noticed. We have been notified that there will be constitutional changes made to our core document. Early this week, there was an article in The Age which was coupled with an email that was sent out to most, if not all members or relevant members about changes to the current constitution. Now, this is actually something that we flagged on the channel quite a few weeks back. I think it was after the West Coast game, where we identified that in our objectives as a football club, it had striving for success and winning premierships right at clause J. And we identified that, in a sense, implied that it wasn't as important as the other objectives. So anyway, the purpose of this video today is really to just make sure that everybody is informed of what these changes are in the best way possible. Now, I cannot go through every single part of the changes because what's actually been given to us is a document outlining a summary of the changes, but also there's an annexure. And in that annexure is a completely new constitution that's been rewritten. We heard the current president, Mark Lejudice, say that the constitutions are the DNA of the football club. So we don't have much time to decide whether or not we agree with the changes or not. We have until the 17th of August, where there is going to be an annual general meeting, and these proposed changes will go up for a vote. And it's important, I just think, not necessarily for me to give my view on the changes, but just for you to have them explained to you in layman's terms. Now, before Blue Abroad, before I even got into this game, I was a lawyer. I have this piece of paper here, which is a very special piece of paper. It validates me in this white Western world as someone that went through the system. Basically, this was the day that I was sworn into the Supreme Court as a lawyer. I'm not sure if you can see that. I've got the seal there. Very, very special day. And basically it means that I'm qualified to read such document, whatever. And apparently you need such pieces of paper in this world that we live in to validate yourself and prove to, I don't know who, that you actually have a brain. So there it is. For those of you who need my qualifications, there is my admission to the Supreme Court of Victoria. Now, we're going to have a bit of fun with it. I'm going to explain it in layman's terms. And the other reason why I brought it up was I actually started a blog called Laptop Lawyer years ago. You can check it up on Facebook. And the purpose of it was to take the legalese or the jargon that you see in documents and in the system and just try and explain it in layman's terms, because it's difficult. It's a lot of the wording in a constitution is very heavy. And you'll see as the video goes on, I'm going to read out the proposed changes, and then I'm going to explain them in as normal terms as I can. So we just have a full representation of what's happened. I would hope the club are going to be putting out some sort of a video or an explanation of the proposed changes. I think it's interesting that we are just being told, blah, here they are. We have 21 days to decide whether or not we want to vote for them. 21 days is the minimum requirement based on the Constitution for such things. And so we have until the 17th of August to decide what we're going to do. Now, at the time of filming, there's also an article in the Herald Sun that's come out. I think it was a shock to all of us. We have a life member, Vince Locusano, who has taken umbrage to the proposed changes and feels a type of way about it. And this is not to really push anyone's agenda. It's really just to get everyone fully informed, and it's important. The document's going to change, and what we stand for is in this document. So let's begin. Voting members means ordinary members, AFL members with club support, life members, honorary members, and subject to the terms of this constitution, members of any other class of membership which the board designates as voting members from time to time. So essentially what this basically means is we are expanding what a voting member is. And it's inclusive of AFL members who choose Carlton as their club support, which gives a bigger pool of members who are actually able to vote for things relative to the club. General meetings. Clause 5.2, subsection A, subclause 2, will be the removal of the condition whereby at least 100 ordinary members who are entitled to vote at the general meeting. The directors of the club must call and arrange to hold a general meeting on the request of the voting members with at least 5% of the votes that may be cast at the general meeting. This one basically means, and this is an important one, the previous requirement was for if the members wished to create a meeting or a general meeting. I think the term that's being used in the media at the moment is an EGM. But if the members, for whatever reason, determined that they wanted to call for a meeting for change and table changes, you would previously need 100 signatures. This is now being expanded to 5% of the voting members. So as I said before, we have a larger pool of members now that are categorized as voting members. And we also now are increasing the requirement from 100 people, 100 signatures, to 5% of the voting members. So you can imagine that's going to go from 100 people to, it's probably going to be in the thousands. The quorum for an annual general meeting is 25 ordinary members, and the quorum must be present at all times during the meeting. This is to be replaced with the following. The quorum for a general meeting is 25 voting members, and the quorum must be present at the commencement of the meeting. This was an interesting one. The quorum for a general meeting. Now, in the previous constitution, it said that the quorum for an annual general meeting was 25 ordinary members, whereas now it's being changed to the quorum for a general meeting. They are two very different meetings. Eligibility of a person to be a director. A person is eligible for election to the office of director only if A, the person is a voting member, B, either the person has been a voting member for at least 2 consecutive years, or if the person has been a voting member for less than 2 consecutive years, the Independent Nominations Committee has nevertheless determined in its discretion to allow the person to be appointed to the board, but only in circumstances where the appointment is made under clause 9.8. So this is in relation to who can be a board member or a director as it's labelled here, but essentially that means a board member. And it basically says they've got to have been a voting member, which we've covered previously, for at least 2 consecutive years, 2 years in a row, or if the person has not been a member for at least 2 consecutive years, the board can, at their discretion or at their choice, choose to nominate them for a board position. So this is in relation to, I think there's a few other clubs that have brought people onto the board who are not necessarily, club people. I know Collingwood's had one, I think Hawthorn's had one, I think Essendon have had one as well. So this is basically if the board determine that there's someone out there that's not necessarily a Carlton member, but would be valuable, they can, at their discretion, choose for them to be eligible for election to the board. 9.3, term of appointment. Subject to clause 9.3b, every year, 1/4 of the directors, but excluding any director required to submit for election under clause 9.8d, or any director seeking to extend their term of office under clause 9.3f, or if the number is not a multiple of 4, then the number nearest to 1/4 of the board must retire from office. If the number who must retire from office is a fraction, then the number must be rounded down to the nearest whole number, with any fraction equal to 1/2 rounded down. Okay, this is an important one. This is the term of appointment. So previously, there's actually some clauses here that have been deleted. So one of them is and replaced. So one of them says that there has been a requirement for 1/3 of the directors every year to go up for re-election. Now that is being changed to 1/4. So obviously that's less. So it generally has been, I think, 3. Now it's going to be changed to 2. So you can make of that what you will. Now the fraction part, this is where it's fascinating, because such language, who in their right mind would really understand what that means? But anyway, subject to clauses 9.3e and 9.3f. No director may remain in office for a period in excess of 1. The annual general meeting held following their third consecutive term of office, or the annual general meeting held following the 12-year anniversary of the commencement of their first term of office, whichever is the longest, with such period deemed unbroken by any required retirement under clause 9.3a. Despite clause 9.3d, any director appointed to be president under clause 11.1 for the first time is entitled to serve as president for a period of no less than 4 years from the date of their appointment as president, provided that 1. The director must submit themselves for re-election under clause 9.3a. 2. The director has served as president for a period of at least 4 years before the date on which the director would be required to retire under clause 9.3d. The director must retire in accordance with clause 9.3d. If the date which is 4 years after the date on which the director was appointed as president falls under the period during which the director would have been entitled to remain in office under clause 9.3d, the director must retire at the next annual general meeting after the end of additional term, and if the director is removed as president on a date which falls after the period during which the director would have been entitled to remain in office under clause 9.3d, they are deemed to have retired immediately. So this is in relation to the term of appointment. Again, so we go a little further down. Now, previously, and even here, it says that a board member cannot serve for more than 12 years. Now, the addition is basically allowing for someone who has served, let's say, 10 or 11 years, someone like a Luke Sayers, and rather than them having to retire at the end of the 12-year period, if they're nominated as president for their first time, they can serve that 4-year period. So someone like Luke Sayers has been on the board for 10 or 11 years. He's going to become president. Now, that will outlive his 12-year maximum requirement. And this is basically allowing Luke to stay on the board as president for a further 4 years, even though his 12-year period has or will have concluded or ended. So look, it's important for you to do your own research. It really is. It's important. I think obviously we are recognizing the traditional owners of the land, and that was really the highlight of the article, but it's a little bit more than that. We're also recognizing our AFLW competition and our women as part of the club, which is also very important, which is also something that we do with our actions. I just feel like it's very important for you all to go and do your own research. All the resources that you need to read through are in the description below. I've got a link there. There's a document that compares the old or the current constitution with the proposed changes, and it literally highlights which words are changing and whatnot. So you need to do your own research. You need to be informed. I'm really hoping that the club put out something that explains things, because the common human, the common member, I really don't know if the common member is going through the document, reading the changes and understanding what they mean. We've really just been given, boom, here is the proposed changes. We're going to an annual general meeting on the 17th of August, and you've got to vote yay or nay. And that's something that's important. Now, I mean, however you feel about the changes is completely on you, but being informed is the most important thing here. So do your own research, and also what's very important with this video is this is not the end. This is really the debate period, because with any changes like this, I really do believe you need to have a period or a reasonable period where you can debate. I would love to make requests, or there be a period where we can submit our requests for changes to the document and what we stand for. I don't think we're going to be able to do that, but it is what it is. We do have a voice in our vote. But also, if you are watching this and there is something here that I've misinterpreted, it's crucial that you put a comment below and clarify it. And if I need to make a part 2 or a part 3 of this video, I will. We're going to address it on the show, on the Blue Broad show on the Monday. We have to talk about it, and we'll go from there. So share your thoughts below. Stay informed, read through the documents, read through the material, and as always, go the Mighty Blues. Go the Mighty Blues.